Real estate agents today aren't failing because they don't know what to do. They're failing because no one ever taught them how to think about or approach their business. Welcome to What They Don't Teach You at Real Estate Licensing School. I'm Anthony D'Alessandro, and this show is about bridging the gap between getting licensed and actually building a real sustainable business. Today's episode is a special one for me. My guest, Matthew Ferrara, is someone who's had a major influence on how I think about this business. I first saw him speak at a regional ownership meeting back when I owned a franchise brokerage at a time when the digital world was just starting to reshape our industry. And his perspective helped me recognize the opportunity without losing focus on what actually matters. In this conversation, we go deep on what really drives long-term success in real estate, relationships, mindset, and how to build a business that actually lasts. Let's get into it. So welcome to What They Don't Teach You at Real Estate Licensing School. Here I am today with Matthew Ferrara, longtime friend, philosopher, author, speaker, general advocate of great practices, I think, in real estate now for quite a couple of decades. I'm excited to engage in this conversation, and it's always a learning experience when I have a chance to see and listen to you. So first of all, thank you for joining me here today and sharing what I know is going to be some great information. And before I get started, we had a little bit of a rundown, and I made the point that while a lot of the people in the industry, we've both had long careers and been in this industry. I know we know a lot of the same people. I know anyone at high levels, like C-level positions in any of the major brands in the industry, know who you are. But at the same time, there's a lot of in the spirits of what they don't teach you, right, at real estate licensing school. There's a lot of new agents that have gotten into the business these last couple of years and will get into the business this year that may not know everything about your background. So please share a little about your experiences and what we can expect today.
All right, cool. I'm very happy to be here. It's just good to see I'm so excited that you're taking on this topic because it is a aspect of the business that actually has come to my mind many times over the years. I've thought, wow, we should write more books on this and do more seminars on this because there is a bit of a gap between getting out of school and actually being successful in this business. So I'm thrilled to talk about that. My background is fairly simple. Here's what happened 35 years now, almost 36 years. I can't believe I'm saying that. 35 years ago, I was actually doing talk radio, and I had gone back to school because I got a degree in philosophy, and my mother said, "What are you going to do with that?" And I said, "Oh, you're right. I'll have to get something more practical." So I went back to school to get a degree in economics, and I sat next to a woman who had gone back to school, and she said, "You know what, man? You can talk an awful lot. You should be in real estate." And I said, "What's real estate? What do you mean be in real estate? Like buy real estate?" She's like, "No, you should sell real estate and be involved in the real estate industry." And I had no idea that there was a real estate industry. So I went and learned about the real estate industry. I worked in her office for a while, and it turned out that, I went to all the classes, I went to all the additional learning, and I would bring it back and share it in all the office meetings and things. And one day she turned to me and she said, "You're really good at this. You should think about being in the professional development side of real estate." And that's how I got introduced to real estate professional development. And since then, I have taught in 49 states in person, all 50 remotely, and 36 countries around the world. And I have worked with every shape and size of real estate company, association, MLS, tech company, you name it. And it's been a really fun ride. And all along the way, I've really had just the same purpose, which is to make brokerage better. In this business, we definitely have a lot of people who try so hard as entrepreneurs and they get stuck. They either spin their wheels or they burn out. And every burnout breaks my heart. And so my personal mission has to make it possible to eliminate the burnouts and instead try and create success path for everybody.
Right. That's amazing. It reminds me, I heard a little bit of a sound bit earlier today about the idea of like loving the story. And I know that's you because I've had our experiences together where you hear someone that like the fulfillment side or the driving motivator side is hearing a story of someone you've been able to intersect with and influence positively, and then have that person come back and say, this is what it meant to me, this is what it meant to
Yeah.
my business,
Yes.
right? And that was an experience for me, right? When we first met, we overlapped as I was in ownership of a Caldwell Banker franchise, and I know you've had tight connections with the Anywhere, previously Realogy companies, and we have a lot of common friends in that world. But as early as, like, I guess it was probably 2008, nine, somewhere in that range, as you were doing conferences with regional ownership and in that market, you were a big influence in understanding the importance as we were entering a new era of engagement and communication and visibility within our own clients and database, right? The message and the importance of taking great care of the clients didn't change, but how we got in front of their eyes. You were by far like one of the very early adopters in that digital change and recognizing that this was a massive opportunity to just be in front of people's eyes in a meaningful way and an effective way and bring great experience and separate ourselves from agents that were not going to. What ultimately happened was they lost relevancy,
Right.
but agents that were not able to adapt and evolve at that time, that was a huge influence, and it made the world to my business at that time, I know.
Well, I will say, I was very blessed to have mentors who helped me have perspective. And I'm thrilled that you have a lot of listeners and watchers who are going to have you as a mentor as well, because we all need someone who can help us keep perspective in this business. And if you want to talk about the single most important bridge between what they teach you in license school and what real success looks like, it starts by recognizing that if you don't show up every day with the intent to make a difference, but only to do a deal, you're missing the point. Sales is about doing something so valuable with the client, whether it's a real estate sales position or any sales position, right? What you're really doing with the client is helping them achieve something that matters greatly to them. In our case, it's either the sale of a home or the purchase of a home, because it begins the next chapter of their lives. If you don't realize, like, that's really what you're doing here, if you're just showing up to generate leads and process transactions and crank dollars, I got to say something right away. Here's the most important thing you should know. This is not that industry for you. This is
Mhm.
not an industry where if you just want to crank dollars, it's going to work well for you. If you show up with that attitude, you probably will burn out. But if you show up with the other attitude, which is, I'm here to make a difference, you will never have a problem making money. Making money in this business is really built upon the right mindset, not the right transaction volume or tool set.
Right, totally. And that was one of my mentors also very early in my career was said something that just always stuck with me. Take care of the people, money takes care of itself,
Yes,
right?
exactly right.
And
Exactly right.
yeah,
And when I think about that, I think about that lesson has helped me countless times adapt as times change, but also to have the achievement drive, the stamina to do what it takes in this business. We graduate from license school and we now know the technical aspects of complying with the law. But license school is not sales school. Sales school is, how do I become an entrepreneur? How do I go out there and start saying to people, I'd like to make a difference? And how do I create both the techniques, but also the stamina necessary to be effective in this business? And that's this huge gap, this huge space of things that people are often not prepared for when they leave that license school. And so I love to be able to share some of those simple lessons that may, take a lot of energy to implement, but may make a difference between whether you last or, you're out of here. Unfortunately, very, very quickly, 60% of people don't make it past their first year in this business, and
right.
90% will not be here after their fifth year in the business. And frankly, those numbers are not good enough in my mind. Those numbers are not the kind of numbers we should expect from this business. And I certainly don't want listeners and watchers of our conversation to think that's going to happen to them. That does not have to happen to them.
It doesn't have to. No, correct. Right. I think if you adopt that, and that'll kind of parlay into a next question, but that's like I get that that's the reality. Though I love the word stamina. Right?
Yeah.
I sometimes I would frame it as like intestinal fortitude.
Yeah.
because one of I think that um the non discussed realities in our business is it's easy to think about all of the great times and events that go around somebody's real estate transaction. Right. I had a transaction that closed last week. It was like the 20-something-year-old son. He and his wife bought a first-time home of a client. His parents bought a home for me like 28 years ago, when he
Right.
was like 2.
Right.
And that's exciting, and it was exciting for them. Like, who doesn't love to buy it for, and it was brand new construction. Like, they were over the moon before the astronauts were last week, but, like, they were so excited about the process. But the reality is we also deal with transactions that aren't necessarily always in the best of times. And there are stress and there are dramas. And we deal with people whose families are expanding because their families are expanding and need a bigger home. We also deal with downsizers, we deal with estate sales, we deal with divorce. Like there's a lot of those reasons too. And the emotions
Yes.
of the clients that come with those types of transactions, and
Yeah.
that's where our stamina and our ability to balance the drama and have that intestinal fortitude to guide, because it's still our job to guide,
Yeah.
right? Like I say all the
Yeah.
time, we both live in areas and have friends, and like friends in healthcare, for instance. Just because they're having a bad day doesn't mean they're going to deliver a different experience when you're in a
That's right.
hospital, right?
That's
This is
right.
a big event in someone's life, and
Yeah.
we've got to show care for it at that
And
time.
you have to fully show up. Well, let's talk about two things really quickly here. One is the
Yeah.
example you just gave. So I love the example you just gave because here's a big lesson for your viewers. Lesson number one: sometimes it takes 28 years to incubate a lead, right? In other words, you started
Yes.
incubating that lead the day after you sold the parents the home, and then you spent 28 years maintaining that relationship, maintaining that value, being a moment of time well spent in their lives. And then 28 years later, you didn't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to acquire the lead of the son. It was a given that the son was going to work with you. So that's the first thing I just want to try and help people understand is when you enter into this business, you've got to start thinking long term. You've got to start thinking about the deals you need to make today and the deals you need to make in 6 months and the deals you need to make in 6 years and the deals you want to make whatever the duration of this career is for you. And if you do think long term, it not only helps you with the stamina, but I think it takes a lot of stress off. I think it allows you to play a different game in this business. You don't have to jump at every change. You don't have to worry about every phone call. You're going to be building a long-term, viable, sustainable business. And that changes, I think, one thing, it changes us from worrying about stamina to begin getting excited about achievement drive. Our achievement drive is released when we realize that our values and our vision for what we're trying to do here isn't just a job. We're creating a lifestyle. Sales is a lifestyle, and it is the way we want to live our lives, contributing to people in our communities, and we're not planning to go away. So it's okay to say, yeah, some leads take 28 years, their whole life to incubate. That's sort of an important energizer. It's what keeps me going every single day because I could say, well, I may not have heard from so and so this year or even last year, even 5 years ago, but when they're ready, they will pick up the phone and not consider hiring anyone else. I got to tell you something. I'm not selling real estate full time. I sell obviously consulting services and seminars and things like that. But I've done some very big deals in my career. And I've never had to do a complicated presentation. I've never had to do a complicated sales document or proposal. I basically can show up with relationships that I have been incubating over time, that I've been contributing to over time. They have trust. I can listen to what they need. I can make some suggestions. And here's another lesson I think your viewers will enjoy. I never, ever talk about commission. I never talk about commission. What I actually talk about is the co-mission I'm going to go on with my clients. You see, if you spell it differently, if you hyphenate, the word commission, everything changes. I'm not here to
Hmm.
talk about a fee. I'm talking about you're on a mission. I want to go on the mission with you. We're going on a co-mission together to achieve something
Right.
great. And it's going to cost some money to do. Like you need to fund the mission. If we
Right.
were going to go on a safari, you'd need to fund the safari. But again, that's another small change in how I approach my presentations with clients. If I'm going in to talk to a seller, they don't really want me to talk about the fee. They want me to talk about the outcome. They want me to talk about what their goals is, the mission they want to achieve, how I think we could do it, and then here's the budget it will take to do it. These little adjustments make a huge difference as I build my career and sustain my career because I am never shy about prospecting when I believe that I'm going on missions with people. I can't wait to go on missions with people, and they're better off with me on their team, on their mission than someone else. So I prospect joyfully, I prospect excitedly because every win is a new mission on my plan for this year or my plan for the rest of my career, really, when I think about it, because I go on multiple missions with the same clients over and over and over again.
It's a long-term relationship. And I mean, that's just mindset and it's beautiful. And I love it
Yeah.
because I feel like it's really in alignment with what clients are saying they want from us.
Yes.
Right? When you look at a lot of the latest surveys, and another, another thing it just occurred to me, and I share this with clients all the time too. Like whenever I think of something, and I was like, "There's this guy Matthew, and he told me about this." Getting used to like reading the profile of home buyers and sellers every year,
Yes.
right? I've been looking at that now for whatever, since the first time I met you, 15, 16 years ago, and so more, 20. But anyway, so yeah, like understanding what's in the consumer's minds, and as of these last couple of years, a lot of it has been predicated upon like risk mitigation.
Yes.
Help me
Help
not
me.
screw this up, right?
Yes. Be my
And either
partner
lose a
on
bunch of
this.
money
Yes.
or not have a home to sleep in. Exactly, commission. They expect you and want you to be their partner in the transaction. When they get to that mindset and they trust that you're that, money's not an object.
Money's not an object, right? Think about it
Yeah.
like this. Think about it like this. Some people can go buy a pair of sunglasses for $25 and it will block the sun and do what sunglasses ostensibly do. And other people will go spend $1,000 for certain sunglasses because when they put them on, it's not about blocking the sun. It's about
Yes.
how it makes them feel. It's a persona, who they
Yes.
get to express themselves as, and money is no object. So when I show up with a customer, and I show up with a client and I can get them talking about their aspirations, their goals, and they see me as their dream catcher. They see me as the person who will help them achieve that dream. Money is no longer the issue. Now, if I'm having a money conversation, I've probably done not a great job at asking them about what does success look like for you? What does the sale open the door to? Who will you become when we achieve success, whether it's the selling of your home or the buying of the home? You get people to talk about that, and all of these other things really start to fall away. Now, back all that up. And that really means you have to get up every day with not only a very different attitude, but also a different tactical plan for building your business. So the right attitude will empower all of this, but then you have to start asking yourself, who should I be talking to? And how should I be building that right business? And there are some good tactics we should probably share with your viewers in that as well, like to really
Yeah.
build sustainable long-term business here.
So that actually is a good parlay into like so understanding, and I've mentioned to it. I talk about it regularly to clients. Like I've recognized that it's easier when someone's been in the business for a while to talk about the concept of there's a lot of repeat and referral business, and that can sometimes be almost hard to relate to for someone that's brand new.
Yes.
So if we're brand new, and I talk about that with a lot of clients, like recognizing that your database, I want to be the foundation, your relationships, I want to be the foundation. But I also recognize that we need to, and you said it earlier, we need to work on how are we going to do deals this quarter and in 6 months and in 9 months, et cetera. So today, ground zero, where are you like, what's your biggest focus to lean into for someone that's brand new that maybe doesn't have this big history, but just, looking to get off the ground?
All right. I'm going to give you, these are all the most powerful secrets in the toolbox here. So here they
Love it.
are.
I love it.
Your viewers just can't tell them to anyone else. Okay. So hush. No, just kidding. So here are the big secrets. Number one, you won't learn this until it's almost too late. So write down what I'm about to say. In this business, the oldest piece of advice is still the truest piece of advice. You must list to last. I heard that piece of advice 35 years ago. It was relevant 45 years ago. It will be relevant 45 years from now. You must list property to last. Now, I'm going to tell you two reasons why. I'm going to walk your audience through this, Anthony, in a way that they're going to say, aha, and they're going to believe them. They can believe themselves. They don't have to believe me. But here's the two reasons. Number one, in any given market, there are competitors. So let's say you're in a board of realtors and there's 4,000 competitors out there, 4,000 competitors. You have to ask yourself, we're all going after business today in the same neighborhoods, in the same market. Now you ask yourself, what percentage of my competitors are likely chasing buyers and which ones are likely chasing listings on any given day? Now, when I do this exercise anywhere in the United States, here's what most agents tell me. They tell me that probably 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 agents are chasing buyers, and only 2 out of 10, 20% are chasing listings. In other words, 80% of agents somehow are told, wait for buyer leads, do open houses, drive buyers around. It's cheap. You don't have to pay. There's no expenses to driving around buyers, but there are expenses that can easily burn you out. But I want you to think of this competitively. If 80% of a market is chasing buyers and there's 4,000 agents in your market, then you've got 3,200 other agents who are chasing deals. Now, if in the market of 4,000 people, there's only, let's say, 500 sales a month, well, that means there's 500 listings and there's 500 sales. So do you want to be chasing 500 sales, competing with the 200 other people for those 500 sales each month? Or do you want to be chasing the 500 listings and only competing with 20% of the market, which in this case is 800 agents? So do you want to compete against 800 people chasing 500 listings? Or do you want to compete against 3,200 people chasing 500 sales? You see where I'm going here? Most people burn themselves out. And I'm going to give you a piece of wisdom. My mother, who was just a fisherman, used to say to me, she used to say, Matt, you never fish where all the fishing rods are. Don't stick your fishing rod next to all the other fishing rods because there's only so many fish in that part of the pond. So the number one thing that new agents need to do is commit to being listing centric as soon as possible, because the competition against other agents is 5, 6, 7, 8 times less, because most agents come into this business and they start chasing buyers. And it's really the worst advice that they could be given, which is, if you're going to chase a buyer and everyone else is chasing the buyer, you're burning yourself out. Now go one step further. Just go one step further. If you're chasing buyers, the problem also becomes, how long does it take for those buyers to buy? And so I want to think about that, because you could be working with a buyer who will buy real soon, but a very large number of buyers take 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year to buy. Now flip that on its head. Flip that on its head. In the market today, what is the average days on market? If the average days on market in Philadelphia is 60 days, it takes 60 days for a home to come into the market and sell. That means that the listing agent is getting a check in 60 days. Some buyer's going to buy it. They probably won't be your buyer, because there'll be at least 3,200 agents with buyers trying to get that one deal as well. And so even if the days on market is 60 days, the only one who's really benefiting is the listing agent. They're going to get a check sooner, and they're going to get more checks. So that little piece of adjustment in your business strategy, chase the listings. It's better cash flow. It's more frequent cash flow. Now, one last angle, and then I'll pause here. One last angle is, when I have a listing, I'm visible online. You see, people go to Zillow and they look for listings. They're not looking for buyer's agents on Zillow. They're looking at listings. So if I have a listing, I'm findable on Zillow. I'm findable on realtor.com. I'm findable on homes.com. I'm not findable if I have a buyer. I don't have a sign in front of a property in a neighborhood that says I have a buyer, but I have a sign in front of a property if I have a listing. So from a pure marketing standpoint, listings are going to be a win for searchability, for public awareness, for neighborhood presence. Like, I could just keep going down the line. So, this one little piece of advice is a massive business amplifier for any newbie in this business.
Yeah, and you're right. There are so many like that doesn't get it. It's the old cliche is there, but I don't think there's a lot of understanding as to the math, like right, like the math that's behind it. And you talked about the competitive landscape of the brokerage community. For me, it's just the competitive landscape. I view it in a very similar way, just the competitive landscape of what is it going to take to convert who's in front of us. When you and I first connected back in the very late part, like it was right around the time when Zillow first became a thing, right? Like Zillow became a thing in 2008. So before that, and all that happened since then, since the internet and that digital age just really kind of exploded. That's a longer conversation we don't have to unwrap, but all that the net result was conversion rates fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Because like one of the, and I'm sure you know who it is. I can't remember his name, but it was one of the founders of one of the big website platforms in the last 10 years that basically said when you're buying leads, whether it's from something like a Zillow or one of the aggregators, or it's your own lead capture site, your and you're running Google ads, same concept. What he said was they're all shared leads. Not
Yes.
because everybody else is
Yes.
selling them to multiple people, but because that same prospect is on 5 or 6 different sites. Plus they
And when
went
they
to an
ask
open
for
house
help,
last week. Plus they exactly.
yes, when
Whereas
they
if
ask for help.
you find a seller, whether it's through your database or through another form of outbound reach, the math is just like the level of predictability to convert that one seller and then actually get it sold once you've secured the listing is it's just a far more predictable and duplicatable way of running your business. Way
So,
more efficient.
yeah, let's add some statistics here for your viewers. Here's number one, which is most sellers, 81% of sellers only interview one person.
Yes.
One
Yep.
person. So
Yep.
they are not going out there asking for 5, 6, 7 listing agents to come in and have like a shootout at the OK Corral. That's not what's happening. Okay. What happens is if you've been nurturing your neighborhood, if you've been nurturing your sphere of influence, if you've been nurturing just your database, which is in your phone, right? You nurture those people when the time is right. They don't shop around. They invite you in to discuss the strategy. In fact, only 5% of sellers interview 2 agents, and only 3% of sellers interview more than 2 agents. So you're only going to lose a listing to yourself. If you're not the person who's top of mind when someone's ready to go, then they might make the mistake of randomly searching for someone online or reacting to a sign that they see in their neighborhood or a direct marketing call that someone might make. They might make that mistake and then they go, oh, I forgot about Anthony. Oh, I can't believe I forgot about Anthony. So most people lose listings to themselves, not to the competitors. Now, the other piece of that, which is nice, is if 80% only interview one person, you also marry that to the fact that 78% of sellers choose someone from their sphere of influence. So they are not doing these random Google searches. They are not doing these random internet searches. And people say, well, what about that 22% that's not choosing from sphere of influence? The reason that's the case, see, most people misinterpret that data. The number one reason people did not choose a listing agent from their sphere of influence isn't because they went online and searched. It's because that agent had left the business. That's why. So
Yes.
it's like this virtuous cycle, if you will. If you stay in the business, you'll get the business. And if you stay in the business longer than the other people and you farm those markets,
Right.
then when someone says, oh, yeah, who is our agent from last time? Or who was the agent that, we've been receiving all this marketing from? But then they go, oh, gosh, they're out of the business. They're not here anymore. That's how you pick up that other slice of it. So, people finding agents randomly is a very tiny amount of the business, which is another good tip for your viewers. Here's one thing they should teach you, but they don't in license school, which is it is much easier, much more effective for you to spend pennies on your sphere of influence than to spend dollars on strangers. Do not
Totally.
spend tens of thousands of dollars trying to randomly find
Right.
Google searchers, right?
Yep.
Spend a few cents on the people who know you, the people who love you, and just stay in contact with them
Right.
and hug them, and you are going to succeed wildly in this business.
And not just that, like when I view this, I mentioned, I think in one message, or I know I talk about it a lot, this concept of this life cycle of
Yes,
someone's relationship to owning a home, right? There's two parts to it. One is that they always have interest, right? If you had like an XY axis and the vertical was level of interest and the horizontal was life, right? And this little tracker goes down and like it's ticking along, and then all of a sudden, a life event happens. Got a new job, got a promotion. Boom, tracker's up to spikes up to 10. Then
yes,
they made the move, and maybe it backs off again. And then they go through life a few more years. Then they get married. Boom, spikes. Right back down. Maybe have kids, spikes, and that's their life cycle of ownership. The interesting thing is, in the so the again the vertical is interest in real estate. It's never zero.
correct, correct.
Even when they're not moving, everyone cares about what's going on in the neighborhood, what's going on with the value of their home. Everyone cares about it, which just means that's like from a permissive marketing standpoint, like no one's ever going to be upset with you for updating them on the value and staying in communication on what's happening in the neighborhood. Like that's just that value is so important.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Real estate is the national pastime. Sorry, baseball,
Yeah.
love baseball, but real
Yep.
estate is the national pastime, right? More people actually watch HGTV shows on
Yes.
real estate than probably watch baseball games. Sorry to say that, but so this is our pastime. Now, you're absolutely right. In between transactions, they're still interested. They're interested not only in what's happening in the neighborhood and values and things like that, they're interested in how to live a good life in that home. So this
Hmm.
is where real estate professionals who have relationships with a wonderful, trusted painter, carpenter, cleaning company, attorneys, tax advisors, all of these relationships we have, they are still of value while
Right.
they are living in that home. There's a reason to show up and contribute. Now, I have to tell you, this is a gift to salespeople in the real estate industry because this is not the case in other products, right? I just bought a new printer,
Hmm.
and my last printer I had had for 13 years. And for 13 years, I didn't think about printing. I didn't say, I wonder what HP is up to today. I wonder what's going on in the world of ink or paper, right? Like it's not a type of product or service that people think about all the time, right? But
Hmm.
real estate, boy, people are always having a need. Do we need new windows? Do we need a roof? Should we put a pool in the backyard? Should we renovate or sell? All of these thoughts are always happening. And this gives you, I love what you called it, endless permission to show up in their lives. And by the way, you don't have to show up all the time and say, want to talk about real estate? Want to talk about? No, you just show up and say, how are you? What's going on? What's happening in your life, your career, your kids, your neighborhood? And the rest of this flows naturally. I got to say, being in real estate is one of the most gracious sales industries to be in because you don't have to call up and say, it's time to upgrade your printer. Do you want to upgrade your computers? Do you want to buy more software? Do you want to trade in your car? None of that. You just show up
Right.
and say, how's life? Because
Yes.
life is lived in real estate and the rest flows naturally.
Right. That's beautiful. Yeah, and as the industry fights over, like, the rest of that life cycle in terms of gaining attention, and I think of the transaction process as there being, like, 3 cycles. There's pre-transaction,
Yes.
right? Where there's a lot of battle, and that battle's all over headlines, for not even just for the last couple of years, but for more than a decade, like, a battle over gaining that initial visibility. There's in transaction, which we could argue as an industry, we've done an okay job at meeting those expectations and delivering a good experience. But then there's post transaction, which is the area where most agents and as an industry, we've dropped the ball in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yes.
Whereas if we just focused on that, even while this battle is going on about that pre-transaction process,
Right,
if
right,
we
right.
just focused on the post and maintaining our relationships, we've solved the problem at the pre-transaction because they're going to be in front of us when that time comes around anyway.
I am so glad you brought this up. So first, let me just to touch on two things you said. One, I think we've done a really good job at improving the transaction itself.
Mhm.
I would
For
say we
sure.
don't give ourselves enough credit for how well we've done. Remember that in 1997, only 77% of people who bought or sold a home did so with a realtor. Okay. So in
Yeah.
1997, only
Yep.
77% of people did it. Now, today, about 92% of people who bought or sold a home did it with a realtor. So I think our value and our perception and our quality has gone up. Are there horror stories? I'm sure there are. But 4 to 5 million people a year buy or sell a home, and they choose to do it with a realtor. It's not a legal requirement. It's not a necessity. They choose us. So to me, I think we do really well. But I want to go one step further, one step further. Let's talk about another hidden secret for your clients, for viewers. Talk about post transaction. So here's another source of great appointments. One of my favorite sources of great appointments is actually what I like to call lightly buried treasure. Lightly buried treasure. Now, what do I mean by that? Right now, we've been talking about things you can do to not leave the business. But unfortunately, some people leave the business. So I want to
Hmm.
play this out with you. I want to play this out with you. Sally gets into the business. She's very excited. She gets a couple deals, 2, 3 deals. She helps people buy homes. That's great. She helps people sell a home and then buy a home. So she's got a few people, but for whatever reason, Sally doesn't last. Sally decides this isn't the business for her. She leaves the business 1 year, 2 year, 3 years into the business. Meanwhile, the average person who buys a home today will stay in that home for more than 10 years. That's the average right now. Okay. That means some people are staying 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years, and some people 5, 6, 7 years. But the national average is 10 years in a home. Now, watch this magic, Anthony. This is one of those mind blowing moments. If I were a real estate professional today, I would be logging in to my MLS every day, and I would be running a search of everybody who bought or sold a home 7 to 15 years ago. Why? Because in the MLS, it will list all of those old sales. And as I just said, some people, they don't make it past 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So they've left the business. So who has been maintaining a relationship with those old buyers who are now owners, getting close to that 10-year period of wanting to sell again? No one's been no one's been maintaining that relationship. They've been released from that relationship because the agent left the business. So no one's been doing annual check-ins. No one's been sending them holiday cards. No one's been telling them to turn their clocks back and forward in the spring and the fall and all the other silly things we do in this business. The
Right.
truth is, those people, their agent expired. It was their
Yep.
agent who expired, right?
Yep. Yep.
But where's their name? Where's their purchase date? Where's their address? Where's their contact information? It's in MLS. So it's a gold mine. All you have to do is dust off the top. You don't even have to dig far for a list of prospects that people have been ignoring because they left the business. And all you have to do is say, hi. Has anyone
Exactly.
talked to you in the last 5 years? Has
Yep.
anyone talked to you in the last 10 years? I'd like to be that person.
And I love zeroing in on a small subset of people, like you suggested, right? Like these last couple of years, a big area of attraction and focus has been because things like NAR telling us that over the previous couple of years, 3 out of 4 sellers was either Gen X, a baby boomer, or silent generation, which
Right.
effectively means they're 50 plus.
They're
And so
mostly
going
boomers.
into
Mostly
right.
boomers. Yeah. Yeah.
Going into a community and looking at people that have owned their home for more than 20 or 25 years,
Yes.
I'm greatly increasing my odds. Like I like to say, with national turnover rates, if homes are selling at 3.5 to 4.5%, maybe 5%, right? We could agree that 3 or 4 out of 100, so let's call it 1 out of 25. So you walk down a street in your neighborhood, 1 out of 25 homeowners is sitting inside, with their coffee or with their family or partners, talking about the prospect of moving.
Yes.
So it's just math.
Yes.
Now I filter that list down and say, just give me the doors that have owned for a longer period of time. I've improved my odds.
Totally.
Now, what you just said right here, we're sitting on a precipice. We're in the third year in a row or fourth year, really beginning of the fourth year of this incredibly low
Yes.
down year, transaction volume year, which means there's so much pent up demand. And those are the ones that are waiting.
Yes.
It's the
And
people
no
that have
one's
owned
been
a
talking
home.
to them. And
Exactly.
no one's been talking to them. So one of the things we have to do as a salesperson is remind
Yes.
ourselves
Yep.
we are market makers, not order takers. So
Yes.
zero homes will sell this year naturally. It's not a naturally occurring phenomenon. It's not like the grass will grow or the roses will bloom. The reason people sell their homes is either they have a very personal driving factor or a real estate salesperson calls them and says, get in the market. This is your
Yes.
time. So if you
Yeah.
want more market opportunity, you have to call people and say, get in the market. So you take what you just said. You go looking for people who've owned for 20 years or more. You go looking for people in a demographic that have a lot of equity or own that house outright. They're in their 60s. They can afford it. Interest rates mean nothing to them. They'll have so much cash, it won't matter about interest rates. Or you look at other factors. Let's just do two more quick factors for your audience. Factor number 3. For sale by owners are still around. They may not be a
Totally.
huge number of people, but the numbers are still massively in your favor as a salesperson. 88% of for sale by owners, if they don't sell the house within the first 4 weeks to someone they already know, like a friend or uncle or family member, they will list with a salesperson. So there's another group of people you could be calling. And here's one more. Here's one more for fun. The neighbors of just listeds.
Love
We
that.
know statistically that they have a 19% improved likelihood of entering the market because their neighbor has entered the market. But to be honest, Anthony, a lot of salespeople aren't really trained to work the neighborhoods anymore. They get the listing. They're so busy with the listing. They don't know what to do. They're not talking to the 20 people on the street, the next street over, the street behind it. And as a result, no one's farming the neighborhoods. I like to think of this as the bat signal. I'm a
Yes.
new listing goes in the marketplace. It's like the bat signal calling me forth to jump into that neighborhood and talk to the neighbors because maybe that listing agent is well trained, but probably they're not. And probably they're not talking to the neighborhood. So as a new agent, I love other agents' new listings. I didn't have a chance at getting
Correct.
that listing anyways, right? It comes from their sphere of influence. So I don't have a chance at it. I'm not sad about it. In fact, I like to send thank you notes to listing agents. Thanks for listing another one because I work the neighborhood that you planted a flag in and said, someone's moving in this neighborhood. And I did the calls. I did the emails. I did the door knock. I showed up to your open house and saw the house, but then I walked down the street and talked to everybody saying, did you check out that open house? Are you interested as well? You see, this is sales, but these little tricks are what really matter to build your pipeline, build your momentum, and obviously create a
And
sustainable
it's
career.
just numbers, right?
It's just
That's the
numbers.
same
It's just
prospect around like
numbers.
that's such a gold mine, right? you have a new listing 100 doors around it, whether
That's
it's,
it.
could be even vertical, could be a whole building, or it could be a neighborhood. 100 doors around it, right? I said earlier, 4 out of 100 are gonna move. And
Yes.
I even will joke with some of my clients, right? If there's 4 in the neighborhood that are gonna move, 2 of them might be related to a broker, one of them might actually be a broker, but that still
Yeah.
means there's one left over for us. And
Yes.
last I checked, if I market to 100 homes and I do one additional listing out of it, that's a pretty good ROI,
Really
right?
good
But
ROI.
what's
Absolutely.
fantastic is they are so easy to approach and talk to. Everybody cares.
Yes.
When you're thinking and planning on selling or have the slightest idea, then a new listing comes up in my neighborhood. Absolutely, I'm dialed into that. That
So
matters. It's a comp.
this has to, so let's go back for a split second here. This really has to come from belief in what you do. If you
Yes.
believe that what you do matters, and you believe that selling is noble, and you believe that most people are interested in talking about real estate, contacting them, it should not be scary. It should not be a hesitation. And I want to just add a twist to this. Here's a twist. It's okay if they say no thank you. Like that, everyone says, "Oh,
Yes.
yeah, to get used to rejection in this business." I've never been rejected. I've never been rejected. I've never had someone say, "I wouldn't hire you if you were the last salesperson on the planet." That's
Right.
rejection. Okay. What
Yes.
most people say is, "Not right now, not today, no thanks." All they're really saying is, "Maybe someday." But that's okay. That's
Hmm.
part of my job. Now, let's do one more really quick numbers thing with your audience just for fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask your audience this question. Would they like to have somewhere between a 10 to $20 million pipeline, right? I want you to think about that. Would that be a great career? I think it's a great career. I think if you could sustain a 10 to $20 million pipeline, that would be a really good career to have. Whenever I ask that question of audiences, they always say, well, how? How am I going to have a $20 million career every single year? I say, let's do some simple numbers. So follow these numbers with me.
Hmm.
Let's ask ourselves as a salesperson what a reasonable number of listing appointments is in a 7-day week. In a 7-day week, what's a reasonable number? Now, some people say, oh, I got to do 10 appointments. I got to do 20 appointments. No, that is not reasonable. You will never sustain it. You will burn out and you'll come to hate it. So here's a question. Is it reasonable to say, I am in sales and I meet with 2 people a week? I am in sales and I meet with, that sounds reasonable to me, sounds sustainable to me. A whole
Hmm.
week, all I have to do is 2 presentations a week. Now, what kind of presentations? Listing presentations.
Yes.
But watch the numbers. Just watch the numbers. If I meet with 2 sellers a week, and I only do it 48 weeks a year, I'm going to take some vacation, going to take some time off, holidays, whatever. Okay. Two times a week I meet with someone, 48 weeks a year. That's 96 appointments. 96 appointments. Now, let's say I'm not really good. I'm new in the business. I don't have a good conversion rate. A decent conversion rate is 3-to-1, meaning I go on 3 appointments, I actually get a listing. I go on 3 appointments, I get a listing. That's a good conversion rate. But let's just go new. I'm new. I'm really not great at this. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that on 96 appointments, it's 4-to-1 or 5-to-1. You go on 5 of them because you're new at this. And
Hmm.
so you come back. Well, on 100 appointments a year, if you got 1 in 5, how many would you get? You'd get 20 listings. Now, let
Right.
me just stop right there. I don't have to go any further, right? Would someone love 20 listings? Yes. In
Hmm.
1 year? Yes. How do you do it? 2 appointments a week, not 10, not 20, not 30 appointments a week, just 2 times a week. And here's the thing. You can lose 8 out of 10 of them. You
Hmm.
can literally be, I would call it rejected. You could be declined 80% of the time. And you are still going to get about 19 or 20 deals a year. But wait, there's more. Because when you sell those listings, those sellers immediately become buyers. And let's say you don't get all of them. Let's say that some of them move in with family, some of them move to
Hmm.
Italy. Who knows what they do, right? Let's say
Yep.
you get half of them. That's another 10. You went from 20 deals to 10 more buyer side deals with people who already know and love you. So they already love you. You don't have to do anything special. And you've now got 30 deals. Now you take 30 deals and you multiply that by the national average price. The national average price is about 450. So
Hmm.
that's somewhere around 12 to $15 million right there. And I'm telling you, if it happens to be in the Philadelphia marketplace where you are, I'm betting it's not 450. I'm betting it's a little bit higher. So
Hmm.
we are talking about 12, 15, 20, $25 million of pipeline on 2 appointments a week with the right client, which in this case is a listing client, half of which will also buy with you. And 8 out of 10 times, people get to say no to you. And you don't get bummed out. You never get bummed out because 8 out of 10 times is still 20 listings.
That's amazing. And the better you get into, and we didn't open up as much because and I really would love to, and I'd love to do this again and dig into understanding your reputation
Yeah.
and how you're establishing yourself within the community, within your network and within your community, because that's just going to improve some of those conversion rates. But what you just said is so natural in a sense of like, so many agents will get into the business and they'll either have no more mentorship or they'll get some misguided mentorship. And the concept of someone being on 2 appointments a week is hard to relate to for some, depending on the environment that they're exposed to. And the problem is, and I'll frame it all the time, and we're sitting here each wearing eyeglasses, and I would use the analogy, right? Like if I went to my eye doctor one week and he didn't have any appointments, it's because he calls it something. It's closed, right? The office is closed.
Yes.
No
Yes.
appointments.
Right.
Our business, for some reason, we made it okay to go days or even weeks at a time without having an appointment, which is crazy, right?
Yes, it's
All
like
we
being
have to
closed.
do,
Yes,
right? All we have to do is have an unwavering commitment every day. I just got to find one person with the slightest heartbeat of any kind of motivation of maybe wanting to move at some point this year. If I have an unwavering commitment every single day, every time I leave, I go to a coffee shop, I go to meet friends on the bike, I run into my past clients, God forbid, I pick up the phone and I call for sale by owner. All I have to do is find one person with a
yeah,
heartbeat of motivation
yeah,
5 days a week. It won't be long. Setting 2 appointments is not difficult.
and
Any
ultimately
one of us can do it.
and ultimately, that's the momentum. The momentum in this, so let's go
Yes.
back to where we started today, right? So where we start every day recognizing we're trying to make a difference, not just do deals. We also are following the right strategy. We're not going to burn ourselves out and work in the busy part of the business. We're going to work in the area where there's a lot of opportunity, but not a lot of competition. And we're going to give ourselves grace. We're going to say, I
Yes.
only need 2 appointments a week and I can lose 8 out of 10 of those appointments and still be fine. With those little basics in mind, and then some good guidance, a good coach, a great company with some training behind me, a positive culture that supports me and encourages me. You know, I have said to people for the last 3 years, while our market's been a little slow and a little low, I've said there's only one place for this industry to go, and that's up at this point, right? I think this is one of the best times to be in the business. I think that consumers want more help, not less. And I think that they are primed for someone who shows up for the right reasons at the right time and says,
Yes.
not that I want to do a deal with you, but that I would like to become your lifelong friend. If I can become your lifelong friend, you're going to build a career that is going to last as long as you want it to last.
That's amazing. Well, amazing. This is I'm so excited. I know there's an incredible context and value and I think inspiration and mindset. I think that I felt like that was a lot of the shaping that we dug into, which I'm excited about because we need that, right? Like we talked a little bit about how the stamina and the endurance of running through at the end. You were talking about this cyclical market. Like one of the other things I focus on is we've had these down years, but the floor is never zero. There's never no homes that
Right.
sell.
There's never
And
been a
even
zero.
though like this has been these have been great years for a lot of the clients, a lot of our mutual friends are like we're all having really like it's an exciting time. And at the same time, we know that there's this pent up demand that's just waiting for the right stars to align and to engage. And in the meantime, whenever that happens, whenever we see maybe a little bit more mortgage interest rate relief or whatever happens that may influence some of that. At this point, we're not really concerned about it because there are always going to be people that are looking to move and interact. And all we have to do is bring good positioning, expertise, counsel, care, right? care to the, to our clients and to our databases, and we're going to win.
If I'm new to this business, I wake up every day and remind myself this. In the same headwinds, in the same market, in the same challenges, there's going to be two people. One person who sees only problems and another person who says, I'm having the best year of my career. How is that
Yes.
possible? It has nothing to do with the market. It has everything to do with you.
Love that. Love that. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to having this out public, and I look forward to again, doing this again at some point in time, and hopefully running into you face to face somewhere in the country, or this country, or another country,
Or in other countries as we have, right?
right? And
Well, I'm in Philadelphia a fair amount now, so I will definitely say hi when I'm nearby. And thank you for inviting me to talk to your viewers, because I'm thrilled to give them any opportunity to be successful.
thank you so much.
You bet.